All right, good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning at our Organic Agronomy Producer Meeting. My name is Marla Carlson, and I'm the Executive Director of Sask Organics. We also have Deb Tuchelt, our Programs Coordinator from Sask Organics, and Dunling Wang, who's the Alternative Cropping Systems Specialist at the Ministry of Agriculture here in Saskatchewan. So thank you all for joining us this morning. We started these online producer meetings probably 2 or 3 years ago. I've kind of lost track of time, just as a way to provide a more informal setting, to provide agronomic information to our members, and also to provide a forum for our members to ask questions and to learn from each other, because we often find that once we get into the question and answer and conversation part of the meeting, we get information and advice about what works on people's farms and what doesn't, which is also valuable to everybody on the call. So don't be shy when we get to that part of the meeting. So what I'll do now is I'll just pass over to you, Dunling, and we look forward to your presentation on growing organic cereal crops.
Thank you very much, Marla, for the introduction. I can confirm with you, yes, it was started 2 or 3 years ago. I don't recall the exact data as well, how long this meeting has been. And for those who don't know me, my name is Dunling Wang, and I am a provincial specialist, alternative cropping system. I work with Saskatchewan Ministry of Agriculture, and my role in the ministry is to support organic production in Saskatchewan. Let's move on to the short presentation today. The title is Growing Organic Cereal Crops. Okay, here we go. First of all, I want to provide you some basic information, background information about cereal crops. In Saskatchewan, major organic cereal crops include wheat, oats, barley, and kamut. There's a small acreage of other kind of cereal crops like rye, chickpea, and durian. The table in this slides show the 6 years, cereal crops acre and total field crop acre and the cereal to total organic crops percentage. And you could see that the acre for the cereal crops has been increased almost 40% from 2015 to 2020. And it kept increasing every year. So is the total field crops. On average, overall, the cereal crops account for about 70% of total organic field crops acres. Even though that organic producers continue to diversify their crops, if they don't, probably the percentage is even higher. And actually, the wheat is the most grown cereal crops. I didn't show the data over here. It was about 40 to 50% of the total organic field crop are wheat. Yeah, I want to use this slide to tell you about what the cereal crops would require soil fertility to grow. And the table, in general, spring and winter cereal crops require about 50 to 80 pounds of nitrogen per acre. Well, it depends on your targeted yield. The nitrogen and the phosphorus deficiency often become a limiting factor for cereal crop production. And this table the table on this slide is give you the general ideas of what kind of cereal and what kind of nutrients they require if you have a targeted, the target yield on the first column. For example, spring wheat. And if you want to grow 40 bushels per acre yield. And normally at that kind of crop growth, the straw to grain ratio would be 1.6. That means 1.6 times of the straw to the ratio, to the grain. So compared to use this kind of wheat compared to oats or forage, and apparently the straw portion is much higher in the oats and forage. The nitrogen requirement, the pound per acre is expressed over here is include both grain and straw. So when we do this, for this kind of crop, for 40 pounds per acre yield, the straw to grain ratio 1.6, and nitrogen requirement 2.2, phosphorus 0.8 pounds, and potassium 1.8 pounds, sulfur is 0.23 pounds. This is what the requirement is. If your soil nutrients level, fertility level is lower than this, and then you won't be able to achieve this 40 bushels per acre. So if you set a target, you need to have the soil fertility to support. That's what I'm trying to say. For the green manure crops, if you turn it down, it breaks down very quick. If you turn it down, plow down, and it would break down very quickly. Nutrients, including nitrogen and phosphorus, can become available in 4 weeks after plow down. This is very quickly. And if you do apply solid manure to improve your soil fertility, remember that about 25% of nitrogen in the solid manure is estimated to be available to the crop in the first year you apply manure, and about 12% in year 2, 5% in year 3. So if remember to replenish this nutrients after the crop is harvested and make your soil ready for the next crop. Now let's look at the variety and the seeds. You need to think, well, when we grow a great crop, we need to consider so many factors. The variety and the seeds are important start point. Varieties, choose the varieties that are best suited for organic system, and which would include the factors, targeting protein content, nutrient use efficiencies, choose those varieties that grow quickly and outcompete weeds. A lot of times, we think the newer varieties are better. It's not necessary. It's not necessarily in organic cases, because over 90% of the new variety breeded is for the conventional system. They normally don't have a very good nutrient use efficiency. And if those varieties are breeded for organic cropping system, it always have a better, nutrients use efficiency. And if the variety was breeded for organic cropping system, you can just take and start growing that, not a problem. And if you don't, also you could use the varieties that have been proven to grow well on your farm. This means that you use your farm saved seeds. And also, try the ones that work well on your organic neighbor's farm. And if your neighbor could grow a good yield on that particular variety, it probably will perform well on your farm as well, because you are sharing the similar kind of climate or stuff. Seeds, certifying seeds are preferred because of the high purity of the variety and low weed seeds contamination. And they often, guarantee the germination. And if you use farm safe seeds, a thorough cleaning is normally required to remove the dockage and any weak seeds, and do a germination and a vigor test before planting, and try to use freshly saved seeds, not those seeds has been parked there for 5 years. And a seeding date. Spring cereal and cereal crops are actually tolerate frost up to 6-leaf stage. Therefore, it is recommended to seed them early when the field condition allows. Some of the research results show that start seeding when the soil temperature rises to 2 degrees. Don't wait until a certain calendar date, and don't wait for the soil temperature to reach 10 degrees. And a repeated experiment in the conventional cereals have shown that this early seeding always turn into yield profit and a quality profit as well. Early seeded cereals are likely to have more effective tillers. That means those tillers would become effective to have a seed set. Tiller forms at a 4 to 6 leaf stage are likely to contribute to the crop yield. And for winter cereals, seed winter cereal between late August and mid-September, depends on your farm location. And in Saskatchewan area, I think the end of August or beginning of September is good. So in northern part, you probably could even seed earlier. Lettuce-sowed winter cereals have a higher risk of winter kill, or they probably won't develop many effective tillers. Seed depth. In general, 0.5 to 1 inch is appropriate for most cereal crops if the field condition is perfect. And in organic system, seeding depths of 2 to 2.5 inch depth is recommended when spring weed control cultivation is needed. If you have to use, what was, my mind is not working right now. Cultivation tillage, rollers stuff, and then you have to seed the seeds deeper, because it would pull the seeds out and damage the weed, the seeds survival. And deep seeding delay emergency. And the graph over here, you can see, if you seed 0.5 inch and 1 inch, the seedlings are becoming very strong and healthy. And if the depth goes down to 3.5 inch depth, it would take a lot longer time for the seeds to emerge. And if further dip to 5 inches, and you see that the wheat seedling becomes so weak, and some of them that would never push through the soil layers, and they become they will be dead underneath. So if you do have to seed deep, and remember to increase the seeding rate to compensate the loss of the plants. The next one is the row spacing. And I guess organic producers normally have the narrow row seeders, 5 to 6 inches, which feed the organic cereal crops very well. But if you do have a wider row spacing and row spacing seeding equipment, then what you could do is to do 2 passes, and with a half a seed sow in one direction and the other half sow at a 45 to 60 degree angle. And actually this 2 passes seeding have been proven to suppress weeds pressure. The study in University of Maine has showed that the weed biomass could be reduced by 20 to 25%, which actually is significant for the yield, to help to achieve better crop yield. And the seeding rate. Seeding rate depends on several factors. We talked about seeding depth, row spacing, seed date, and seed germination rate. In general, organic seeding rate is higher than conventional. So in general, we recommend about 1.25 times of the conventional suggested rate in your area. For early seeding with the cultivation to control weeds, and increase the seeding rate a little bit more, because the cultivation would damage, you would lose some of the seedlings during the weed control operation. When seeding dip, increase seeding rate depends on how deep you go, and then increase this kind of seeding rate proportionally. When seeding late, also increase the seeding rate. Looks like everything you do, you need to increase the seeding rate. Well, seeding rate calculation, I give you this formula over here. Well, I assume everybody know that well. And the target, which the seeding rate per kilogram per hectare is equivalent to targeted plant density. That use the unit like plants per square meter times 1,000 kernel weight in grams, and divide by the field emergence or survival. For example, use the whole number. If the survival rate, emergence rate is 95%, and use the number 95, and convert this kilogram per hectare into pounds per acre times 0.89. Well, some of you might ask, well, I have this, weeds issues. What do I do? Actually, cereal crops are strong competitive crop and can often withstand some of the weed pressure without significant yield loss. If you seed your crop earlier, and that means the crop would establish probably much earlier too. So they would have developed a better ability to outcompete weeds. And they start early, they produce more effective tillers, and those tillers would grow towards the inter-row space, and then they probably would have a better pressure to suppress the weeds germination and growth, both annual weeds and perennial weeds. And if you have a Canada thistle issues, and you actually could deal with it through the late fall tillage in previous year, and if you go a deep tillage, like 3.5 to 4 inches of tillage, just before the freeze, and that would be able to delay the germination of the Canada thistle by 3 weeks in spring. That would give the early seeding cereal crops more advantage to develop and suppress weeds. And now look at, let's see other kind of options for weed control. Rotary hoe and tin harrowing are effective in preceding and post-emergence weed control for young annual and newly germinated perennial weeds. And Dr. Steve Shurtleff did a study on this for many years, and he feel like do this kind of things would substantially reduce the pressure from the weeds and help to achieve a better crop yield. And before the row close, camera-guided inter-row cultivator can be effectively remove the newly germinated weeds and large weeds left from the earlier cultivation. And many producers use COMCAT, and which is a tool to manage several broadleaf species, which include camel thistle, white mustard, and any of those weeds that develop rigid stems. And this COMCAT would be able to cut the top of the weeds, particularly, for this cereal crops. They won't damage the crop and reduce the weed seed bend. But pay attention to timing and frequency. So sometimes you might need to do twice or 3 times a year. Well, after this kind of things, then there's not much you need to worry about, and then you're waiting for harvest. And harvesting should begin when the grain moisture is 80% or less. A lot of times, if there's adverse weather conditions, particularly rain or wet, or let it rain and have some kind of green crops at later fall, can quickly deteriorate the crop quality. Particularly the wet weather, especially some of the crop varieties that sprout from the stem, from the crop, from the rain at harvest. Barley is also susceptible to pre-harvest sprouting. And the last thing is the storage. Self-storage moisture content for cereal crop is around 12 to 13%, slightly different for different crops. When grain moisture is higher than the self-storage limit, appropriate drying methods should be used to reduce moisture content. And several means to dry grain in storage bin, something like aeration with natural air. I think SAS Organics is going to host a grain drying webinar later this month. I think that was 26, is that right? And Dr. Ron Palmer, he has been doing this study for years, and he's going to talk about aeration with natural air. And sometimes the heat supplement natural air has to be used to dry the grain quicker, more effective. And if it's really wet, and you could use, dryers use a dryer to deal with the tough grain. And other thing what you might need to do is monitoring grain moisture during storage time, and occasionally aeration may be required. This is my short presentation. But just kick off the topic. And
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to thank you, Dunling. It was a very comprehensive overview of organic cereal production, from selecting seed varieties right up to storage. So thank you so much.